Donald Trump is panicking as Iran's negotiating leadership team says they are not showing up to Islamabad in Pakistan until Donald Trump stops threatening Iran and until Donald Trump agrees that the negotiations that can take place around the ceasefire will be based on the 10-point Iranian negotiating framework that Donald Trump and the United States accepted. And one of the key terms is that the United States and Israel need to stop bombing Lebanon. Iran says that's what the United States agreed to, among other terms, in the 10-point plan. They also agreed to Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran can continue enriching uranium, that Iran gets to keep its ballistic missiles, and Iran and its proxies have long-term and complete security guarantees. And unless and until that is agreed to, the Iranian negotiating team are staying in Tehran, and they will not be heading to Pakistan. They will not be showing up. Now, J.D. Vance has already left to go to Islamabad, and so you're going to have the United States there while they're threatening Iran, and Iran says, again, we will not show up at all until you make it very clear that the 10 points that you agreed to when we started this will be what's discussed, because we're not going to be playing these games. So what is Donald Trump doing? Donald Trump is now saying that he is preparing military operations in case talks with Iran fail. Well, Donald, you agreed to their 10-point negotiating framework, and they're saying if that's not what's being discussed, they're not going to show up. And you're saying they didn't understand English, and that's why there's a whole misunderstanding here. And that just makes you and the United States, frankly, look pathetic as a result of your behavior, Donald. Trump said the following to the New York Post. We're going to find out in about 24 hours. We're going to know soon. We're loading up the ships with the best weapons ever made, even at a higher level than we used to do a complete decimation. So that's where we are. Donald Trump threatening complete decimation. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, posted the following message. 2 of the measures mutually agreed upon between the parties have yet to be implemented: a ceasefire in Lebanon and the release of Iran's blocked assets prior to the commencement of negotiations. These 2 matters must be fulfilled before negotiations begin. And with just an hour to go, the senior members of Iran's negotiating team are saying, we will not show up until you agree to negotiate what you've already agreed to. Iranian social media accounts are posting things like this: bully or not bully? That is the question. Iran's press TV, citing Iranian sources, posted the following. Under sustained Iranian pressure, the Zionist regime was forced to halt its attacks on Beirut in Lebanon. Iran made the cessation of attacks a precondition for participating in talks on a temporary ceasefire. Further negotiations are conditional on Israel not attacking Beirut and other areas in Lebanon. Any renewed assault would cause the talks to be completely suspended. The United States compelled the regime to stop its attacks on Beirut. The Iranian delegation's trip to Islamabad was postponed several times. Continued Israeli strikes could nullify negotiations altogether. And we know that right after this so-called ceasefire, which is really a market manipulation scheme by Donald Trump, was announced, Israel launched its deadliest strikes on Beirut since basically forever, killing 258 people in a day, causing significant casualties, close to 2,000 casualties. And you can see just areas in the suburbs just completely bombed and obliterated with innocent people, mostly innocent, most civilians getting killed. It's absolutely disgusting. So now what's Donald Trump doing? As it seems, the negotiations in Islamabad are about to completely fall apart. Donald Trump posts the following. He goes, world's most powerful reset. President DJT. If by the world's most powerful reset, you mean America the weakest, you've lifted up China and Russia, and you've destroyed the power of America. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess he's telling the truth. The world's most powerful reset with the United States being its weakest ever. Great work, Donald. Great work, you idiot. He also posted moments ago this morning, the Iranians don't seem to realize that they have no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. The only reason they are alive today is to negotiate, ! President Donald J. Trump and his threats, as we see, continue to backfire. Then Donald Trump also posts, Palantir Technologies has proven to have great warfighting capabilities and equipment. Just asked our enemies. Well, a New York Times analysis verified damage to 22 schools and 17 health facilities in Iran from U.S.-Israeli strikes through Iran's Red Crescent. But Iran's Red Crescent says the toll is far higher. They say it's 763 schools and 316 health facilities were damaged or destroyed. Many strikes hit dense areas like Tehran, contributing to at least 1,701 civilian deaths, including children and medical workers. So if you accept Iran's numbers, 763 schools and 316 health facilities were targeted by the United States thus far in its unlawful war through its war crimes. If you believe the New York Times analysis of what they independently verified, it's still 22 schools and 17 health facilities. One school and one health facility is one school and one health facility too much. We're dealing with human lives here, and innocent human lives. And so when we talk about this, when we report on it, have compassion for human beings, damn it, and call out war crimes for what they are, war crimes. And the Trump regime officials and everybody in the chain of command who was involved in this needs to be put on trial in The Hague for war crimes, because that's what they engaged in. Now, with all of this taking place, U.S. oil prices continue to surge, $100 per barrel and more, as Iran accuses the U.S. and Israel of violating the ceasefire agreement. So you start looking at some of the economic data from this morning. University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index falls to a record low of 47.6 for the month of April amid the Iran war. Not even March 2020 or 2008 saw consumer sentiment levels remotely near as low as they are right now. May I repeat that for a second? 2020, height of COVID, the worst moment was COVID is surging. 2008, the height of the Great Recession, never saw consumer sentiment remotely as low as it is right now. And look at the numbers. Inflation is soaring. The inflation numbers came in today. So in March, it's up to 3.3% year over year, the highest annual rate since May 2024. The war in Iran is squeezing middle income and lower income households, Heather Long explains. Inflation in March alone rose 0.9%. That's the biggest 1 month jump since June 2022. Gas jumped 21% in March. Fuel oil soared 31% in March. Airfares, 15% in March. Food was flat for the month, but that's likely to go up later in the spring and the summer because it has a trickle-down impact, right? Now that the fertilizer isn't getting to the farmers and the food's not being shipped, that just takes a little bit longer to go downstream into those other categories of inflation. This is really, really bad, folks. So CPI is showing that it is the largest month-over-month increase in gas prices, frankly, since we started measuring it in 1967. So to make this very clear for you, it's the highest monthly increase in gas prices in almost 60 years. Going back to this war, although this is all interconnected, this unlawful war. So Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, supposed to have more of his criminal trial taking place this weekend. But Netanyahu has now asked a Jerusalem court to postpone his corruption trial testimony for at least 2 weeks, saying that there are classified security and diplomatic reasons linked to current dramatic events, so he needs a delay in his criminal trial. He's been on trial since 2020 on fraud, breach of trust, and bribery charges, and he seems to be using the wars that the unlawful war crimes that he's been involved in, because in my opinion, he is a war criminal, in order to delay his criminal trial from taking place and the adjudication of his criminal trial. I mean, I'm just seeing right now, look at the Strait of Hormuz, folks. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz remains restricted, with most recent crossings limited to Iran-linked vessels. No ships are going through right now. Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor, thinks that maybe it could open in 2 months. So their best case scenario is that the shipping through the Strait of Hormuz may get back to normal in about 2 months, which that ain't going to happen. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. One of the terms Donald Trump agreed to is ships pay a $2 million fee. Iran controls it. They get the $2 million as part of the reparations that they're demanding. And so even if it opens, it is open now. It's open to Iran's allies right now. But even now, they basically are not letting anyone through other than their Iranian cargo vessels, until Donald Trump agrees to stick with the negotiating framework he previously agreed to. Here it is on state regime media, where you'll see even Fox saying that Iran is charging ships to pass through, and they're not really letting any ships through. Play this clip.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. With high-stakes talks scheduled this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan, an Israeli intelligence official tells Fox News Iran is indeed demanding fees for the few vessels it's allowing to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This official adds the strait is effectively under full IRGC control. They decide who gets to go through, but more importantly, who doesn't. I am told that there is intelligence being shared in the intel community about how Iran is trying to tighten its grip on this strait ahead of the negotiations this weekend. Overnight, President Trump taking to Truth Social to talk about the issue, saying, quote, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. With just 8 vessels.
Here's what Kevin Hassett had to say, though, about maybe 2 months we'll get the Strait of Hormuz open. Let's play this clip.
Stronger. Do you think we can open the straits and get the flow of oil going within the next, say, 2 months?
Yes. So, I can't go into, classified stuff, but first, we're very, very hopeful. We've got the A team going to Pakistan to negotiate with the Iranians, and we also have backup plans if necessary.
Okay. And then, just thinking about the broader geopolitical situation we're in right now. 2 Taiwanese security officials telling Reuters this morning that China has deployed nearly 100 naval and Coast Guard vessels in and around the East and South China Seas this week, far higher than the typical 50 to 60. The increase is very rare for this time of the year. 2 non-Taiwanese security officials said this isn't an anomaly, but rather the new normal for China. Now, one of the things we know has happened this week, the main Taiwan opposition leader took a trip to China, calling it like a 6-day tour of peace, as China is trying to utilize that opposition leader to basically, in my opinion, take over Taiwan. As the U.S. security umbrella has collapsed in the Middle East, China realizes that there's no way the U.S. is able to exert any security umbrella in Asia. And China sees this as a perfect time, I think, to make its move regarding Taiwan, using pressure. And I think trying to start now, not with military force, because I think they think the United States is so weak and crippled right now that it's just a non-player in international affairs. Let me know what you all think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.